tired of owning nothing and being unhappy. So, I filmed a whole video on this topic, and then somehow, in my travels, I lost the SD card that the video was on. So somewhere floating out there is a little miniature SD card that has this video on it. But I'll do it over again. Why not? You know, I know you guys want a video every week at least. So here it is. I'm kind of, reselling has led me to a new, I guess, hobby / form of entertainment to replace all of the subscription shit that I got rid of. Corporations for a long time have been trying and largely succeeded at a subscription model, as in you don't own anything, you pay for the privilege of getting to use or be entertained by something or other, and almost every form of commerce is trying to get you that. You got gas stations trying to get you to become memberships and all of this, and the worst offenders obviously are like Amazon, Netflix, Disney, all of these, entertainment venues. They all want you to pay your monthly fee. I do have a couple subscriptions left, but there's stuff that I use for my business. Obviously, I'm an Uber driver on top of many other things. And so cleaning this sucks. So I got an unlimited cleaning service, but they're not making money off of me. I take that shit in there every day or two to get cleaned. And so that subscription, I believe it works out because I get compliments from people that ride with me and I get tips and stuff like that. So it should pay for itself while saving me the trouble of having to constantly clean up after people in my own vehicle. But that being said, that's a business model, instead of, and they price up when you get your single car wash or your single thing. I pay $25 a month to get this interior cleaned. But if I wanted to do it just once, every once in a while, that would be $35 for the same level of cleaning. $150 if you want the super deluxe horseshit package. And, it may seem cheaper, kind of like, it seems cheaper to, pay your monthly streaming bill on Spotify as opposed to owning the music. Until you realize that maybe you don't spend a lot of time. And that's how these companies make their money. If I just paid that subscription and never went in to get my car washed, they would make a huge profit off of me. And that's what they bank on. They bank on that the majority of people aren't going to be in there every fucking day getting their car washed. Some people go a month with, even though they paid, they didn't wash their car. It's the same thing with streaming services. I can't tell you how many months of time that I've paid for Prime or for Netflix and I didn't use it. I didn't get anything shipped to me. I didn't watch anything, or I didn't get what I paid for. I paid essentially just to have the option to maybe watch some second shitty ass rate movies, and then whenever I did want to watch something and I went into Netflix or or Prime, they didn't have it in their Prime library or the Netflix library. And I have to rent it or purchase it digitally, in which case, how long do you have that for before they shut that down or take it off their servers or whatever, you know? And that's a possibility. And then, of course, you got to pay more if you want 4K over 1080, you know, and all of that. And at the end of the day, you don't own it. It's not, you know, if you read your little agreement, you don't own that. So, in the midst of my reselling, I've been digging through some of my stored items, and I've come across my CDs. I had a big ass book with probably 200 something CDs in it that, you know, go all the way back to the 90s when I was into CDs, when we didn't have streaming yet, and Napster quite didn't kick the music industry directly in the nuts the way it has now. You know, but now we're to the point where almost every form of entertainment, they want the subscription model. And not even that, it's trying to creep into cars, you know, where you got to pay a subscription so that the seat warms your asshole. You know, what in the fuck? All right. And I found myself, you know, through this reselling, you know, kind of feeling nostalgic and wanting to go back to the time where I owned something. You know, I don't own this van. You know, I own my phone. Took me a while to pay for that back in the day when I was debt free. I'm not debt free anymore. But the music and the movies and all of the media that I consume, games are all digital now. I don't own any physical copies of the games I play, and it bothers me because what happens when Steam takes down their games? You know, because Steam's the platform I use to purchase, and I put purchase in quotes, you know, because if Steam decides to get rid of those games, they're gone. I don't get to play them anymore. And that's a lot of the game companies have rolled with that live service business model. That's the same with consoles now. They're selling games on console to where all it is a disc that initiates a download to put the game digitally on it. And then if the video game company decides, hey, well, we're not supporting this game anymore, then it goes away and you can never play it again. You know, where if you go back 20 years and you buy a game or a movie or a CD, it still works, still just as good as the day it was out there. You know, in some cases better than some of the shit you can get nowadays. Like, so I started listening through my CDs and I found myself, it's a different experience. See, when you're streaming music or movies or whatever, you don't really, you know, I don't go looking for a specific movie usually. I end up just letting the algorithm tell me what I should and shouldn't do. Whereas when you're flipping through music or movies that you own, because I've started to do this with 1080p Blu-rays, you know, and they're cheap to get now. Definitely if you're on the secondhand market too. I find myself listening to stuff that I otherwise might not have done if I was streaming. You know, flipping through artists on Spotify generally isn't a thing. You generally put one thing in the search thing and then you let it go, and then you let the algorithm take control of your entire listening experience. Whereas if you listen to a CD, chances are you're gonna, because you don't feel like swapping it all the time, you'll probably listen to the whole fucking album of an artist. And then you tend to only select music albums that are good instead of just buying things for one song. You know, and it brought me back to the old nostalgia of when we used to go into fucking record stores and flip through music, CDs and stuff like that. Or back in the days of Best Buy when they had a huge media section where you could go flipping through Blu-rays, or even back to the Blockbuster video days, you know, or back when, you know, at the same time, Netflix was on the scene then, but they were just mailing you fucking CDs or DVDs, and then you have to send them back to get the next things in your queue. And I'm finding, I'm wondering if I was an outlier on this. So I dug into it a little bit, and it turns out physical media is starting to make a comeback. So I started looking into it, and I feel like the newer generations want to own something. They don't want to live their life on a subscription model, being fed only what companies feel like they can profit from, instead of maybe finding stuff to suit their tastes. Does your music playlist on Spotify define who you are as a person, or define what you listen to? And, I find that if you look at someone's CD collection, you learn a lot more about their musical tastes than if you look at their Spotify playlist, which is, the dopamine hits of hitting likes or skipping, is what ends up doing that. And not to mention from the artist's point of view. As a music artist, I make music. I'd like to make money for the work I put into making music if it's good enough. And some have told me it's good enough. But we're to the point where we've devalued music. If you're paying $9 a month to Spotify and you have access to a bajillion songs, like literally more music than you could listen to in your lifetime, times 2 or 3 probably, and, sorting through AI slop tracks and, or for getting constantly bombarded with what the record industry put out as opposed to independent artists. And then they don't pay but maybe half a cent, not even half a cent. I think it's 0.005 cents per stream or some stupid shit like that. So, the artist gets nothing. However, physical media, artist gets a huge profit from. An artist used to be able to just release a music CD and make more than enough money to not only live, but to live like a fucking king or a queen or whatever the pronoun is for that nowadays. That being said, can you still do it and just release your music on a physical media form today where you keep the majority of the profit? And the answer is yes, surprisingly. 2024, I believe the statistic says that the physical sales of physical media and CDs rose for the first time in like a decade. And so I was digging into why that is. And it turns out the younger generation has nostalgia for shit that they never even fucking got to experience. They want CDs. They want, try and buy some vinyl right now. It's like $30 for just one album. It's crazy. There's some supply side problems on why that is. But, it's become a collector's, hipster. Well, I don't even know if it's fucking hipster. The new kids on the block, so to speak, want what we used to have in the 90s, which arguably is the peak of our civilization, as much as how that was said in the movie The Matrix. We can get into simulation theory later. That was a rabbit hole I went down recently on YouTube. The younger generations are yearning for physical media. CDs are starting to slowly make a comeback. 40 million, according to the RIAA, 40 million CDs were sold in 2024. Now, that's only a drop in the bucket. So about 11% of all media sales were accounted for. The rest were streaming, like 80-something% was streaming. But that's still a lot of physical media, and it's a market that I feel could grow again as people get tired of all of this worthless fucking bullshit content that is getting churned out by these huge corporations where you're expected to pay anywhere from $10 to $30 a month in some cases to get access to content not good movies, not original ideas. I mean, how many fucking remakes do we have to go through? I already watched all these movies when I was younger, and you know what? They were 20 times better than they are now. Why would I watch your fucking shitty remake of a classic movie that holds up over time? And they all do. All the movies that they're remaking, the originals were better than the new releases by a mile and a half. But that's subjective. I realize that. Maybe somebody likes this new bullshit that keeps coming out. But I haven't gone to see a fucking movie in the theater in over 4 years now. You know? I used to love that. Back in the 90s, I used to be one of those motherfuckers waits in line on opening night for a movie. You know, get your big ass fucking 10-gallon tub of popcorn that somehow you manage to eat a lot of it while you're in there. Scary. It's how we all got fat. But, you know, that used to be a thing. Now I haven't been excited for a single movie release. And even if I do get excited for something, which I haven't, I don't think I would go to a theater and pay that price to see it. Because I'm so pissed off that everything sucks. Meanwhile, I can go to a thrift store and every once in a while, for the lovely price of $2 to $3, I find a movie I'm like, you know, I haven't watched that in a while. I'm ready to watch that again. You know, and I buy my Blu-ray. Or if there's a movie that I'm yearning or I'm in the mood to watch, I can either order it or find it somewhere. Turns out Walmart still has a physical media section. And I used to ignore it, but now today I went through it. I'm like, you know, if I wanted to watch something newer that maybe I, don't want to dick around with eBay or whatever to get, can I find something? And I found like they have tons of compilations of Blu-rays, like entire movie series, TV show series, all good stuff from back in the day. Now, some of it was pricey, but some of it was on sale for roughly the same price I would pay per movie. You know, like if you get a trilogy, I think I got Blade Trilogy for $12 in Walmart, Blu-ray, 1080p. You know, that works out to what, $4 a movie? That sounds right. CDs, brand new, you can get for the same price, actually less. I think it was like $12 or $13 for a CD. That's cheaper than what I paid in the 90s, which if you account for inflation means I'm paying less in buying power to get the same experience I had back then, and I don't know, I find myself, when I flipped through my CD book and I started putting some of my CDs in and it sounded better to me, maybe that's in my head. Audiophiles have, so much fucking shit arguing about this on the internet. You almost can't even believe what sounds better. They say Apple Play is lossless. Well, then I don't want to pay fucking premium $20 a month to have lossless streaming of shit that I probably wouldn't listen to on my own. So, even if you can argue that some streaming sounds better, now from what I know musically, I can tell you that even CDs are compressed to a degree. So there is a little bit of compression involved in that digital process. And then, you got the digital audio converter, which takes that digital form, which can be read by anything, and converts it to something your ear can hear. And you know what? Turns out that digital audio converter quality and the quality of your sound system are what dictates how good something sounds. With the exception of the compressed stuff, you lose sound quality, or it gets mastered to be brick-walled, essentially. It's the loudness wars and all that shit that took place, instead of leaving the dynamic range of the music you're listening to and to where you have to turn up volume up a bit more to hear all the, all the frequencies of what you're fucking listening to. I'm sorry, I got nerdy there. But that being said, when I was sitting there listening to my old CDs, they sounded better to me than when I listened to a music music on YouTube or when I listen to music via streaming. So I think CDs and physical media in general for our entertainment may make a comeback. The greedier these motherfuckers get and the just the poor quality that you get for these subscriptions, bad writing, bad cinematography, I can't think of a modern show or modern movie in the last 2 years that I'm like, I'll go see that. I'll pay $25 for that, for a digital copy of that. What the fuck? $25 for bandwidth and maybe some space on a single hard drive somewhere that it shares out to you. I know it's more complicated than that, but that's, meanwhile here on YouTube, I can, with the exception of watching some commercials, I can technically watch these things for free. You're watching this. I ain't getting paid much for this video. I'm putting work into it. It's taken me an hour. Well, now it's 2 hours if you count the one that I lost. I went to edit it yesterday and it was gone. But, I'm not getting paid for my time here. I'm getting lightly compensated for the expenses I put in. But that being said, if I were to release a Blu-ray of me making videos, I don't think people would buy it. Just call me crazy. Although, let me know if you would. I'll start putting Blu-rays out or audiobook DVD or CDs or something. I do know that one thing I do want to do, because if you think about it, if we do this and we allow all of our lives to be digitized and subscription modeled, in 30 years, shit that you have now will be gone. And all of these videos I've made, all the music I've produced so far will disappear. You won't be able to find it. I'll be dead and people will forget that I was even here because all we do is stream and the internet is not forever. We lose power or some other major catastrophe happens. Internet's the first thing that goes away. Just ask the people in North Carolina that got hit by that hurricane. See what I'm saying? But if you've got physical media, that shit'll still be there 30, 40, 50 years from now. I don't know how long CDs will last, but they last a hell of a lot longer than digital media does. And even myself, there's videos I put out 3-4 years ago that got deleted because YouTube didn't like it now. Even though it's fine, all those years ago, all of a sudden, somebody's opinion of shit changed, and those had to go. Well, if there was physical media of my stuff, then you would always have it. And I would always have it. So I'm thinking of expressing myself through physical media, just so even if no one ever buys it, even if I'm the only one that has my own music CDs that I professionally I'm going to have done, I'm going to have them done. And then if there's an interest in people, from my YouTube audience that might want physical copies of my music or something else, I don't know, you tell me in the comments. Then even if no one buys any of it, I still have it and it'll still be here when I'm dead. And maybe that'll be one of those, oh, he's dead, so now that CD is worth $1,000. Which, consequently, if you look at the used CD market, that's what happens when an artist has passed away and they've only put out like 100 CDs. Guess what? There's collectors out there that are all about that. That makes it rare. Rare raises the value. So, I think I may be way off. You tell me, what are your consumption habits when it comes to entertainment? Is it all YouTube all the time, Netflix subscription models, or do you still have physical media? Do you still use physical media? And for those of you who are like, I don't have a CD player or a Blu-ray player, they're cheap as fuck. You can either buy a used one for, I got mine for under $30. I think it was $25 at the end of the auction. And it's in perfect working condition, plays every form of media, CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays, all in one thing that I bought used on eBay for like 30 or under $30. I don't know, it's 25, 30, I don't remember. But it was cheap. And you can even buy new ones for like 50 or $60. I've seen those at Walmart. And of course you can buy them on Amazon and all that. That's the other thing. Since I've quit Amazon, a lot of people are like, I order a lot of shit, so I got to get the free shipping. So this month I've ordered one thing, and I paid $6 shipping for it. It's going to take the same amount of time as it took when I was on Prime. Although they try and sell you Prime and say, oh, you get it a day earlier. I'm like, no, I'll wait a day. It's fine. Not in a hurry. And so instead of paying $19 a month or whatever the hell it used to be, I think it was $15 a month. What about the months I don't ship anything? And those add up. When you're not paying attention, you didn't order shit for 2 months, 3 months out of the year, guess what? You're probably taking a loss, as opposed to if you weren't a Prime member and you just shipped it when you needed it. And I'm learning that a lot from my eBay. I have probably paid maybe $20 or $30 this year so far, paying for my own purchases off of eBay. But if you add up that 15 over the year, it's going to add up to more. So yeah, 2 months, and that would be that. We're halfway through the year now. So I don't know. Do the math. I suppose there is a point where you make a profit, kind of like me with the car wash subscription going every other day. I'm definitely, they're taking a loss on me, but for the loss they're taking on me, they're making up for it with the profit for the people that maybe come out once a month to get their car washed while paying this subscription, or sometimes not at all. So I don't know. I feel like the corporations have been trying and are succeeding in forcing us into a world where you literally own nothing. You have to pay for the privilege to use something or to watch something or to listen to something. But it's not, you're not free to do it whenever and on whatever terms you want. Whether it's subscription models or commercials or what have you, you're going to pay for it. And you're not just going to be able to sit there, flip through your collection, throw it in whatever player you need for whatever form of media you have, and watch it for free, barring the electricity to run the shit. So, but if you let them, they'll do it. So we got to go back to people recognizing the power of their dollar. There's a ballot box for voting for politics, but there's another ballot box that people forget about. And it's pretty important thing to remember is you can vote with your dollars. If you don't like something, if you don't like the fact that something's like that, don't buy it. And I guarantee you, if like half of the streaming crowd decided they wanted physical media and they dropped out and started purchasing physical media, not only would the physical media price go up, but corporations would be scrambling to be the first person to provide that for the consumer. Demand is a thing. And the more demand they get for physical media, the more you'll see it in stores again. So it is what it is. I guess we can thank the younger kids. There's a lot of things that piss me off about the younger generation, but one thing we can thank them for is maybe they're on to something with this. I want to own the CD. I want to see it, the shiny little fucking disc spinning around in the little box. Just some thoughts. And some people just have CD players in their vehicles. I think the statistic I heard was maybe 30 or 40% of vehicles still have CD players in there. Mine doesn't, so I'd have to get one of those Bluetooth CD things if I wanted to go back to those days. But you know what? I'm okay with, in my car, taking my CDs, ripping them to WAV files, which are lossless, and throwing them on my phone so that I can listen to them in the car, without having to flip through a book. So you can have the best of both worlds and still have a higher quality audio file than you get from Spotify, YouTube. Which, by the way, YouTube's even got that shit now. They want you to pay. They're lowering the bit rate on your 1080p videos that you watch on YouTube and offering you 1080p premium, as in they're just gonna throttle the bit rate if you're just watching the commercial version of this, which doesn't make sense to me because they still allow 4K, and 4K is pretty good, if you watch it on a 1080p screen. So I don't understand their business model here, but it sounds like they're trying to lower your experience unless you give them the monthly subscription on YouTube. So we'll see. But some people pay that subscription just so they don't have to watch the commercials. I get it. But do you really? I don't know. We'll see. I just wanted to give my thoughts on that. Other updates. Uber's turned out to be quite lucrative. Turns out there's a New York State minimum amount now. I didn't know about it. I just got paid for that today. Apparently, if you make under a certain amount per hour when you're on the app, then they have to pay you up to that amount. So, and then I guess they tally that for the whole month, and then they give you it in one shot. I'm still looking into that. I just found out about it today. I'm just like, because I logged on and I got like $36. I'm like, but I didn't do anything. So, but Uber has definitely become my number one app that I'm using right now, simply because there's not a lot of drivers in my area. There's not a lot of people coming online during the day. And I haven't had to sit very long at all. And now I have the confidence to know that if I am sitting for a while, that I'll get the minimum pay, which is okay. But it's not, you're not going to make a living if you're just collecting minimum pay. And I feel like they probably have a way of getting that back from us somehow. But we'll figure that out when I look at the math. But it's been steady. I've been able to work at any time during the day. I don't have to just limit myself like I do with deliveries. In deliveries, there's a lot of empty, unpaid miles that you drive. Versus this, it's more like they're just stacking people over and over again. It's like before you even finish one ride, you have 1 to 2 other rides ready to pick up. So it's like nonstop, keeps you rolling, which is good. And the fact that I can do it whenever, as opposed to being more limited on delivery, because deliveries dry up around 5 p.m. every day. Because, a lot of the retail stores drop down. So, yeah, I'm doing that. Reselling, I've kind of, because I have to go to Canada, I haven't listed anything new because I don't want to have to come back and ship it. That's the thing. If I go to Canada and somebody buys something, then I have 48 hours to ship it. And if I am in Canada, that means I got to take my happy ass back down here and ship it. So I haven't been listing like I should have. I do have some inventory. We've still gone out and picked some things up. But I haven't listed it yet. So I'll get to that. But look forward to that. That's coming. Probably next week when I get back, I'll list a bunch, or I might list stuff before I come back, so that it's able to sell and I'll be back to ship anyway. So, but I found some things. I got a vintage LCD screen that, for people that do retro gaming, I feel like would buy something like that. I know I would. And I also got a DVD player, an older one that looked like it was in good shape. So I'm going to clean that up, test it out. that up. There's a few other things, and I'm just seeing what sells right. I'm still in that research phase where I'm trying different things that I pick up at the thrift store. Not too worried about if it don't sell. I'm still in the green because a lot of the personal items I've sold quickly and definitely helped my bottom line. Plus, I've done some in-person sales on some of my music gear because I didn't feel safe. Because, the more expensive stuff, I don't really want to put on eBay, to be honest with you. With the amount of scamming that goes on out there, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I've had my first return. It was something that legit didn't work. That wasn't a scammy thing. But, it was a voice recorder that was open box new, and I didn't test it out. I didn't take it out of the box or any of that. And lo and behold, the customer got it, tried different batteries, didn't work, sent it back, gave them their refund. That's how that worked. So it's looking like I might make the full year. My confidence has boosted now that I've added the Uber to the mix. I feel like I have enough income streams to keep me afloat. It's still a balancing act. I'm still having to do a decent amount of hours of work, but it's nowhere near trucking. I'm not doing that 70-hour-a-week shit doing this, and I'm still able to make my bills, and still be able to do some things like go out to dinner and, go up to Canada, visit my girlfriend, that kind of stuff. So I'd say I'm doing all right. And that's with now picking up some physical media instead of relying on corporations to stream to me all the time. And this is all, a lot of it's secondhand stuff, Other people are making money in the economy instead of the corporations on that. And they hate it, If you look into the history of when they tried to get rid of CDs and put the mini disc and all of that, that was because Sony wanted you to keep paying over and over again for shit that you bought already. Well, look at that with video games right now. That's exactly what's happening there. How many different versions of Skyrim and Oblivion do we gotta fucking buy as gamers before you let us just own the fucking game that we bought years ago, more than once? Sorry. Well, little rant there. That's something I would like to see a comeback on physical media for, but I think it's too far gone at this point. If you want physical games, you got to join the collector's market, and shit gets priced up. Like, you're going to pay $100 for like fucking Mario Kart from Nintendo 64 era. It's crazy how it goes, but at least you'll own it. And then there's always emulators for that too. So for the old vintage stuff, but those don't work as good. Sometimes it's better just to have the actual shit. But what the fuck do I know? So I'm not an expert. I'm just an asshole. If you like this video and you want me to make more videos, please go down below, hit the super thanks, become a channel member if you don't mind your subscriptions. Just because I don't want to do it doesn't mean you don't have to do it, but that helps the channel a lot. Like I said, after I get over 10 members, I will put out an exclusive video. But until then, you're just supporting these videos with what you're doing there. And I appreciate it. So thank you to those of you who have become members, all 3 of you. Appreciate it. YouTube, I didn't clear $100 this month. But to be fair, I didn't put out a ton of videos. It was 1 a week. But that's my least profitable way to spend my time right now. So obviously, I got to pay this van payment, and YouTube just ain't going to cut it for that. So, and I got to buy Blu-rays and CDs now too. So that being said, I'm still trying to squeeze off 1 video per week. So hopefully it's enough to make you happy. Please like and subscribe for more shit. And I'll make more shit. Now I'm going to get back to Ubering. And hopefully build up some savings for when I go to Canada. Have a nice motherfucking day. Shit. And I'm serious. I am going to do physical CDs of my music coming. I'm gonna start working on my first CD release album. I don't think I'm gonna re-release the Middle Life, which I did put on Spotify. I think I made all of $30 over the past however many years ago that I put that up. Uh, I made more money just selling royalty-free stuff, but that's going out the window with AI. So physical media is looking like the only way you can make a little bit of scratch with your music if people like you enough. But you still got to market. I'm not much of a live performer, so that's the way most artists make their living nowadays, as far as music goes. But I don't know. AI, I don't feel like AI is going to penetrate the, I don't think AI is going to penetrate the physical media market. I don't picture people burning AI slop onto CDs and selling them. But who knows? Somebody might do that somewhere. All right. I suppose I put it off long enough. Back to work and shit.